morning, friends. So, it is officially Monday the 16th. I'm starting this reading vlog because I've not been reading as many of like my advanced reader copy romances lately, and I'm like feeling the itch to do so. So, I've read a couple recently that I wanted to talk to you about real quick. So, first up, let's talk about the one that I'm currently reading. The one that I'm currently reading is The Inn on Mirror Lake by Debbie Mason. We've seen both of these characters, both the male lead and the female lead, since, at the very least, the last book, if not the book before that. So we have this girl who's moved back to Highland Falls. This is part of the Highland Falls series. And she moved back because her grandpa had a stroke. And her mother and her sister and her father all weren't able, like, they did not want to come to Highland Falls, and they did not want to take care of him. They just wanted to sell the inn that he owns and put him in a home because he's an elderly gentleman. So she was the only one who was willing to go and take care of that. And then we have a man who worked for the Deputy Sheriff's Department, I want to say. Yeah, Deputy Sheriff's Department. And he had become obsessed with a case about his dear friend who had passed away. And basically, he got put on a mandatory leave, and he was going to have none of it, and so he quit his job. But what's happening is our female lead's mom is trying to come and sell the inn out from under her grandpa. And so things have happened, and these two have shown chemistry together in the past. And so they have a slight matchmaking / fake dating setup so that her mom starts to take her a little more seriously and to kind of help protect her, because things feel off with the way the mom is and where she's so insistent on selling the property. Like, motivations start to come out further and further as you get into the book. But he's, the broody, sulking hero, but he is so gone for her heroine, and she's equally as gone for him, but he keeps putting on the brakes. She's like, I just want to be with him. I just can't convince him that he wants to be with me, kind of a situation. And this is kind of happening with another book that I'll talk about in a minute. But I ended up really enjoying it so far. Debbie Mason just has a way of coming at a romance. They're usually not going to be high steam, but they're really fun, and I really enjoy them every time I read them. Okay, the next one is Only Home With You by Jeannie Lynn. In this one, this is a short novella that takes place after, I believe it was called The House on Sunshine Corner? No, The Inn on Sweetbriar Lane. Like, some of these titles of small town romances all kind of blend together for me. But yeah, that one was The Inn on Sweetbriar Lane. I really enjoyed that one. And this one is following characters that we already saw in the previous one. And we saw their chemistry on page, so I was very excited. I mean, I could have taken a whole novel about them, but we got a novella. It's just under 200 pages. It is sweet and spice and everything nice, and I really just had a great time with this particular one. It was just great. It was an easy flow. It was an easy read, and I gave it a solid 4. Really enjoyed it. Only took me a couple of hours. Like, it was great. Like, basically, I didn't sleep much at all last night. I was just wired for some reason. And so this is what I was kind of reading last night. So that's why it's all in this vlog. I did finish When a Princess Proposes. And that's the one that kind of ties into my current read, where he has been a servant to the royal families for a long time, and she's the princess. He serves all the royal families in this world. It's a big world. This is technically like book 6 or 7 in this Embraced by Magic series by Carolyn Sparks. I do think you need to at least read the book previous to this, The Siren in the Deep Blue Sea, to get the full context of our characters in the world. Because the big overarching story does directly tie together. And with these, it's low on the romance, and a tiny bit of steam. It's mostly very angsty, very build up, slow burn feel, and then a lot of fantasy. So if you're looking for one that has romantic elements but is still fantasy, this would be a great one, even though you'll typically find it in your romance department at a bookstore. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one. And again, another solid 4. Can't wait for the next installment in the series. I think it's great. And it's just a series that I really like. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, what I'm currently reading, and I'm way behind on a lot of these romances. And so I'm very excited to kind of play catch up, read ones that have been on my list for a while, obviously. And I just, my reading's been really different this year than it has been in previous years. I mean, I've read 2 nonfictions already this month. So things are just a little different with my reading, and that's not necessarily bad. I do think working at the bookstore has affected my reading, but I think in a good way, it's helped me not be afraid to try things I've always been curious about and not just stick to my lane. But I've been missing my lane a little bit, so I'm going back to my lane for a minute. I read not much manga so far this month, so you'll probably see some manga pop up in here as well, because it'll just be kind of a reading vlog for the week. But I am going to primarily focus on these Netgalley titles, just because my list is getting longer than I like. So I really want to catch up and take care of the things that I've been meaning to. Good morning. So it's technically Tuesday now, and I've finished 3 things since we last chatted. So first up, The Inn on Mirror Lake was fantastic. I loved it so much. These are always going to be very low steam, closed door, really sweet small town romances. And I really enjoyed this particular one. I really loved both of our characters, and I really just had a good time with the story. It had very interesting family dynamics, but it also had a very interesting dynamic within the couple, because he's basically obsessed with this particular case because he feels a lot of guilt about it. But even though it's mostly resolved, he doesn't feel like it is, because he feels like he hasn't taken down the core of what's going on. And so he still is motivated by it. But everybody's trying to be like, dude, you got to step away from this. You need to take a break. You're basically suspended for now. You're riding the desk for a while until you cool off. It was really interesting to see him come around and realize what he was doing. One thing I didn't mention in the previous clip, there is a teenager in here. He's the one, I have written my review on Goodreads. The content warnings are listed there. But it's his dad who was killed that our hero is chasing this case for. And this boy has hero worshipped him for a long time, and he basically felt abandoned by him. The boy's name is either Riker or Ryder. My brain is still waking up this morning. And he really was a sweet kid, but, kept rebelling in the only way he knew how, and things kind of went from there. I really love how that all worked out, because it basically ended up with a emotional support dog helping him get through, and 2 old men. It's fantastic. But our couple really, he was very clear. He's like, I don't do commitment because I can't. It's too hard for me. It's with this kind of a job, it's really risky. And so she knows all of that up front. But of course, feelings happen. And she's like, I'm not trying to blame you for all of this. I get it. And yeah. So their dynamic is super interesting. I really enjoyed that. Okay, the audiobook that I finished, because that was the ebook that I finished. I'll talk about the one I started after that. The audiobook I finished was Temper Me by Alexandria House. This is book 3 in the Romeo series. And this has been my least favorite Alexandria House so far. And I mean, it's not bad, but we're dealing with lots of cheating and bad decisions, and people come around to things by the time things are resolved and stuff, but there's a lot more to it, and it's just crazy. And again, very interesting family dynamics in this one. Essentially, because of the way she was raised, she just wanted a sugar daddy and just wanted to be a rich man's wife. And that's because her mom was constantly hopping around, never had anything stable, and they lived really hard. Her mom was really young when she had her, and there's just a lot of baggage there. But this mom ends up marrying her ex-husband and complicating things because they do have a child, so she's forced to face it all the time. So that family dynamic is very interesting. And then our hero, I really love his family. He was always the wandering soul and wouldn't stay in one place very long, kind of a thing. Kind of like the Inn on Mirror Lake in a way. But just for different reasons. Basically, his dad wouldn't publicly accept him or his mother. And so it's really interesting to see that. And I'm not going to tell you more than that because who he is ended up surprising me. So anyway. Again, it wasn't like a super bad book, but it's been my least favorite Alexandria House, so I'm giving it 3 stars just because of the nature of it. It's also dual timeline because basically they had this hot and steamy thing like the whole time she was in college, and then she got a rich husband, and even though they were in love with each other, she married somebody else, but that's because he wouldn't choose to stay and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, and then the other thing I read is When the Cat Goes West, Volume 1. And it's very slice of life-y. Essentially, we're dealing with a thing called flow, where essentially it's attached to people's emotions. And if someone gets too overwhelmed or too distraught or lost or something, the flow will alter the surroundings in some way. Like in one, it rounded all the corners so nothing was sharp. In another, it created a bunch of different paths because it was a high school student who couldn't figure out where to go in life. Another one is there was a mirror and a girl came, got lost that way. And the mirrors were repeating and stuff. So the setups for each of them are interesting, but I feel like there are series out there that do similar things that do it a little better for me. So this is one I probably won't continue. It's not bad, and I would definitely recommend checking it out if you can. For little to no money. I mean, if your library has it, great. It is a Kodansha title, so you can probably find it on KU in a matter of time. But yeah, it wasn't my cup of tea, which was really disappointing. I just forgot the title of what I started next. Let me look. I'll be back. All right. I got the name. This book is called Bride for a Day. So essentially this girl, trigger warnings for all kinds of assault already. It's not on page, but it's definitely referenced to. Basically everyone she loves in life has died. And through all those circumstances, she's left in the care of a man named Saul, who was technically her mom's best friend from work's husband. And he's an entitled SOB, and he had never treated her well. He always felt like she was a burden. And so when she refused to sleep with him after he was trying to force himself on her, he basically sells her into sex trafficking. And so she's on the run. She's 20. He had no right to sell her into sex trafficking. But she's on the run. She was headed to a certain city, but then she sees cops at the bus stop that they're at. And then she sees this guy sitting by himself. She goes and sits with him and says, "Kate, I need you to help me. I'm really, really sorry." And, he asks, what would John do? What would his twin who passed away do? And so he helps her out. And through the set of circumstances in trying to get the cops to back off, they end up married. And so they head to his family's place, tell them what happened. He has an uncle who's a lawyer who can annul it. They are all accepting of her, and she's like, "Why aren't y'all mad? Normal people would be mad about this. What's going on? Like, we literally just met yesterday." Basically, this man has been locked up since his brother died and has shown no emotion but now he's sharing emotions with this family because of what happened to her. And so I'm really liking where this is going. This is a heavier hitting Carolyn Brown than I've read in a minute. It'll be really interesting to see where this goes. I'm very, very excited. They did not consummate the marriage because they thought they were going to annul things. But of course, we know things are going to work out for them. And I really like them together. He's super sweet, super patient, not one to really raise his voice at her very much. He did once when the situation got like super stressful and, you know, she basically raised her voice back and let him know that wasn't okay. And he's like, oh, crap, sorry, I lost my temper. And they kind of have moved forward from there. But again, these are all things, because he hasn't shown emotion for so long, it's all like overflowing now. And so it's really interesting. And I really love the family. So I'm really excited to see where this goes from here. So we'll update you once I read more. But I'm not sure what my new audiobook's going to be yet. I'm still deciding. But I got to decide because I got to go to work. Hello. So it is now Thursday night? Yes, Thursday night. And I've finished 3 things since we last chatted. 2 audiobooks and 1 of my e-arcs. So let's talk about those real quick. So, first up, the e-arc. We did Bride for a Day by Carolyn Brown. I don't remember if I updated a little bit in my last clip on Tuesday or not. This one was a little bit tougher to read. The grief is pretty palpable throughout. So if grief is a trigger for you, please tread cautiously with this title. But the way everything landed in the book, the pacing was really nice. And it came to a natural conclusion at the end. And it just felt nice. I didn't feel jerked around. I didn't feel like anything was that forced or anything. It all just felt really good. And that was really nice. I was worried early on, but it took me a little bit longer to read it because the grief was so much. So I had 2 of these really light and fluffy audiobooks going at the same time so that I didn't burn out and didn't, end up stopping the e-arc. I just read other things as well. So first audio was I Love You, Luke Skywalker. And yes, it has all of the nerdy Star Wars talk throughout it, but this rom-com was absolutely adorable. And I related to this probably more than most people will, because it's about a girl who, because of certain things that happened in her life, she struggles with the idea of intimacy because she feels guilty about it. And one of the things her therapist tells her to do to cope with it is to write about it. If she ever feels like imagining something sexual, she's supposed to write about it. So essentially, she ends up writing erotica as therapy, and then she loses her job, and somebody encourages her to publish it, and so she does. And it's really interesting and really intriguing. I found it very charming. I really enjoyed it. Again, not gonna break any records or do anything earth-shattering. It's a solid, 4-star read. Really, really good. Didn't do anything wrong or offensive. I just had a good time with it. This isn't going to be one that everybody loves, but the nerd in me really loved it because they even had the debate of Star Wars versus Star Trek at one point because the therapist was really hardcore into Star Trek and she was really hardcore into Star Wars. So it was really interesting. And the love interest, the male love interest, Luke Skywalker, his parents we're really obsessed with Star Wars. So he's Luke. His twin is Leia. That level of obsessed with Star Wars. So it's a little campy, but I loved it. And I had a great time. Would recommend if you enjoy all things campy and nerdy. And then the one that I just barely finished was called the Plus One Pact. In this one, we have, and it's based in Leeds. So it's across the pond, as they say. And it was interesting. It's definitely that fake dating to get through the summer of wedding/family events situation. You see her trying to date. None of it's working out. And she is in a bar because she's supposed to meet someone. They stood her up. And, the nice charming guy buys her a drink and they become friends. And just friends, starting out. And he kind of helps her make over how she looks because she feels like she needs a change in her life. He's like, okay, well, I know people who do hair and makeup. Let me set you up with them so you can do something different. And so he kind of helps her with that. And he just kind of helps her feel as confident as she should be. And he's been teased forever about being a playboy because he was when he was a lot younger, but he hasn't been in a long time. Yeah, like the way things work out in this one, it's cute. This one's more like a 3.5 though, because there's some stuff that felt weird and icky and not quite right. But they're deep enough into the story that they would be mild spoilers, so I'm not going to mention them here. But this one was just an Audible Plus that I took a chance on, and it was okay. I mean, it just did some things it didn't have to do. So it could have been a little bit shorter and cut out those couple of scenes, and it would have been just fine. But it still blitzed through an entire summer in a very short audiobook. I mean, at 2 times speed, I think the whole audiobook was 3.5 hours. And, because it was part of my Audible Plus catalog, I'm glad I didn't spend the money on it. Hello. So it is officially Monday morning. It's been a couple days since I updated this vlog. I've been working on some other things this weekend, but I have started Wicked Beauty. I've only read the first couple of chapters, so I'm not too far into that at all. But my audiobook is actually an audiobook arc of Bet on It by Jody Slaughter. This one is going to be heavy trigger warnings for anxiety, mental health. She does list them at the beginning of the audiobook, so do be aware that Jody Slaughter's definitely being cautious in that way. So make sure you check her list and check your own triggers, because this is you're open to a panic attack on page in the first chapter. So do know that it can be triggering. All of the triggering kind of content related to anxiety will definitely be seen here. But essentially we're following our heroine who was living in the big city, and she has since moved to a small town because she needs things to be quieter and slow down. And she starts having this panic attack in the grocery store. This guy comes up behind her and is just patient, because we find out later that he also has anxiety, and the small town was not very nice to him about it. And so he kind of has some PTSD related things with that. He has a really bad background. His dad was into drugs. But he's in town from DC taking care of his grandmother because she had surgery on her arms or got injured. I can't remember. She might have fallen. Might have been something like that. But he's going to go crazy with no one else to talk to but his grandma. And so they start to form this friendship, and it's amazing so far. He's very sexually attracted to her. She's a big, curvy gal, and he just wants to be all up in her business, but he doesn't want to ruin the friendship because he knows that he can't do long distance. He's tried before. It's not worked for him, and there is nothing that would keep him in this small town at this point. Not even her. So I'm really interested to see how this one pans out. I'm really liking it. Jody Slaughter's a great author. I've read from her before, and it definitely has that Jody Slaughter feel to it right now, and I'm very much looking forward to what happens from here. Good morning. It's Tuesday. I'm in the library about to head down and head into the car to go to work, but I realized I haven't given you a manga update. I've read 3 volumes since we last chatted, so I really probably should. So, first up, Requiem of the Rose King, Volume 15. I continue to love this series. This volume is so pivotal to this final arc of the story. We know how this is going to end because it's a piece of history. I would love to see if Aya Kano puts some sort of twist on it. There's maybe 2 volumes left is all. I know we're nearing the end. I don't remember how many volumes there are exactly, but all I know is it's going to be an interesting ending, that's for sure. Not a typical shoujo ending. So I'm really excited to see what happens. Next, I read volume 14 of Queen's Quality. Again, we're so deep in the series, it's really hard for me to talk about it. But I ended up really enjoying this particular volume because I felt like, though we're still dealing with the imminent and prominent storyline, It took a slight turn that I wasn't expecting, but I expect that to have ramifications later. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this one goes. I'm really looking forward to it. I know there's 16 volumes out in Japan, but it's saying it's still ongoing. Dengeki Daisy was 16 volumes, so I thought, it would stay somewhere around there, but I think it's going to go a little longer, and that makes me super happy. But I really, really love it. 10 out of 10 love this series. If you're not reading Queen's Quality, please do. It's so, so good. And then the last one that I read this morning was Wonder Cat Kyuchan Volume 4. This is just a very cute slice of life story about this man and his adorable humanoid style cat who wears a bow tie. Like, it's just adorable cat shenanigans with a cat that seems more sentient than it should be. Other than that, it's good. It's adorable. I love it. The art style is very much like 4-panel comic style. And it's just very simplistic. And I love it for it. It's just cute, Sunday comic almost kind of feeling. And I really enjoy it for that reason. So yes, if you like cat shenanigans and you're not reading Wonder Cat Kyuchan, I recommend you do. It's so fun. And yes, I always have a great time when I spend time with Hinata and Kyuchan. But yeah, that's my current update on manga. Book-wise, I'm about halfway through both Bet on It by Jodie Slaughter and Wicked Beauty. So the Steam factor is officially up on both of them. There have been hookups in both stories now. I'm really enjoying myself, really enjoying the dynamic of the couples that I'm reading about. Helen is feisty, and I love her for it. And the fact that she continues to put Achilles, in surprise land is really, really interesting. So, yes, I have a really good time with both of these. One is just going to be a lot more emotional hitting than the other. The Katie Roberts going to be fun, sexy times. The Jodie Slaughter is going to be tougher for most people because it does deal so much on page with anxiety and all of the ramifications of that. He has PTSD from his childhood. She has very severe anxiety. You open this book with a panic attack on page. If you can get triggered by seeing someone else go into a panic attack, do tread cautiously. And again, the beginning of the audiobook here does tell you that there are triggers. So make sure that you are very careful as you read. And I'm taking it slower than I initially thought I would because of that, because I do have anxiety and I can get triggered occasionally. So I'm trying to take this one slow and enjoy it. And yes, so with that said, I'm going to go to work. We'll see if I finish anything else today. Tomorrow I have the day off. I'm getting together with a friend and we're going to read. So yeah, that's kind of the plan. I'll chat with you guys later. Good morning. It is now Thursday morning. I've finished a lot of things since we chatted, so let's catch up. So yesterday I read a couple volumes of manga. I won't go into detail with them here. Well, I guess I can. I read Cat and Gamer, about a 29-year-old gamer girl who ends up adopting a stray from work. She always leaves work right on time with all of her work done because she wants to game and relax and stuff. So she's very good at what she does. And so now she's got this chink thrown in her life with this cat, and it's adorable, and I love it. Play It Cool Guys number 3, which was equally fantastic. We got a new cool guy in this one, and I really just had a great time. Really enjoyed my time with this volume. This is a full color manga. We don't get a lot of full color manga. And this one's just quirky and adorable. There's a long time in between the volumes coming out, so if you don't like to wait, this won't be the right series for you. But I really enjoy it. Okay, that's it for manga. Let's get into the books. So I finished Bet on It by Jodie Slaughter. Bet on It was fantastic. This can be a very triggering book. There are multiple panic attacks on page, PTSD, all sorts of things. So if you have those kinds of triggers, please tread lightly, tread cautiously with this book. That said, the romance in this is truly beautiful. These two people understand each other on a level they haven't found with anybody before, and it's amazing. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Just if you have anxiety-related triggers or PTSD triggers. Just please be careful. I did also finish Wicked Beauty by Katie Robert. Fantastic. One of my favorites. Great throuple. The way the trial went down was really good. And it's definitely setting up the next arc of the overarching story. And it's fantastic. I'm really enjoying it. Helen was feisty, just the right amount of feisty for me. She still feels very deeply, and a lot of her feistiness is armor. And the way that came across was really, really nice. And she's a woman who likes to dress good and has always dressed good, but she still has more to her than her looks. And people haven't taken her for more than her looks for a long time until Achilles and Patroclus, and they're amazing. I love them. Then I read The Matchmakers by Carolyn Brown. This is really cute. Marriage in trouble. They were going to go on a cruise for their anniversary. But he's married to his job. And she's like, no, enough. No, we need to separate. We need to figure this out because this is not what I signed up for. And with the help of the old ladies and the old man who just cruise instead of checking into a nursing home, they work things out. And it's really cute. I really loved it. It's only about an hour long at 2 times speed on audio. This was in the Audible Plus catalog. I like Carolyn Brown's writing, so I thought I'd give it a try. And I had a great time with it. Would recommend. It's a great little short listen. And I really enjoyed that. And then I also read Repeat by Kylie Scott. I'd already read Pause. So I just finally got around to reading Repeat. So with Repeat, we have a woman with amnesia, and she shows up at this tattoo parlor, and the guy in there starts freaking out, and she's like, wait, did you do this art on me? And he's like, well, yeah, that's my work. And she's like, okay, that puts one thing together. So he has no idea she has amnesia. They had dated before, and this is basically them working through things and getting back together. There's outside forces at work here as well. They both didn't want to break up, but somebody was trying to break them up. And all of that kind of comes to a head, and you see all of that. So anyway, with that said, it's been great to just have a day where I got a lot of reading done. I probably should have filmed content for YouTube, things like that, but I didn't. It's okay. But now I have to disrupt my very comfy cat over here. Oh, you can't really see him. There we go. Because I now have to get up and go to work. So he's going to be grumpy at me. But, yes. I haven't picked out my next read yet. Hello. Good morning. So it's been a bit since we've chatted. I meant to watch the previous clip to see which audiobooks I'd talk to you about, but I didn't. So we'll talk about those in another clip. But I did last night finish Storm Echo by Nailani Singh, and it was perfect to me. I loved everything about this book. I loved the dynamic between Ivan and Soleil. Ivan is that dark, broody hero who doesn't feel like he deserves love, but once he meets Soleil, he would burn the world for her. She also would do anything to protect Ivan when she remembers who he is. She suffers a very severe trauma early in the novel where she loses her pack. And he was never able to identify her exact species of shifter because she never shifted in front of him when they first met. And so he doesn't know how to track her down. He just knows that her name is Lei. And as they get to know one another again, because they get reacquainted in the most bizarre of ways, she remembers who he is. And her cat has always known who he is. And her cat kept tabs on him in a way when she couldn't. And it was amazing. I really, really loved it. I'm not going to say what kind of cat she is. I didn't mean to say that. But yeah, so the shifter part of her kept them together when they couldn't physically be together. And Ivan feels he is a monster and his moral compass is
there, but not as strong as others. So he kind of has done the dirty work for the Mercant family for a long time. And I can't get enough. It's so good. So good. This Trinity series, I feel like, is stronger and more solid than the original Side Changeling series. But that's only because I think as Neilani has grown as an author, you can see that in this series. Because, this is technically book 21 in the Side Changeling universe or something like that. And I just feel like each book gets better and better. And I just really loved this one in particular because it was fantastic. And I love it. I love the Mercant family. I love the Side Changeling universe. And this book was no exception. It was fun to spend some time with the Dark River cats again. It's been a minute since we've spent some time with them. And the way that all of that came about was really beautiful. So 10 out of 10 would recommend this book when it comes out. It comes out in July. I skipped ahead a little bit because I just really wanted to read it, and I'm so glad I did. So anyways, with that said, I'll touch base and do a final kind of wrap up of everything that I read in this vlog and during this time period. And then we'll end things there. Hello. So it is now the 31st. And I'm finally getting around to getting back to you guys to give you the final update for this vlog. So real quick, let's talk about 3 audiobooks that I've read that I haven't mentioned yet. So the first one is Part-Time Lover by Lauren Blakely. I've kind of been on a Lauren Blakely kick lately. I've been reading a lot of her stuff on audio. Part-Time Lover is just the next installment in that. Essentially, this guy... he has this thing with his buddies. He's part Scandinavian, and so when he's spending time up north, his family has this property, and a tourist boat tends to go by, and so they all have this, thing where they, work out on the dock naked when the tourist boat goes by, and, they have a, bet about, who gets the best reaction, whatever. Anyways, this woman who was on this tour sees him and legit, starts flirting with him, shouting at him from the tour boat. And, they start this banter. It's great. They're supposed to meet up that night, but they both end up going to different places with the same name, so they don't actually meet. Fate brings them together a year later. They end up having to get into this fake dating relationship kind of situation to save face for both of them. And from there, they become more. They both have very tragic pasts. They were both previously married. And they have to work through what happened in those previous relationships to be at a point where they're healthy enough to be together. I think Lauren Blakely did a great job of exploring all of that. And I really, really enjoyed this one. Continuing on that, I went to the next book in the same series. And that is Dear Sexy Ex-Boyfriend. Again, we are in a fake dating relationship kind of situation, but this is a childhood friends to lovers fake dating situation. So these childhood friends have both really had feelings for each other for a long time, but one was never willing to admit it to themselves, and the other one was. I'm not going to tell you who's who. You'll have to read it to find out. But because of this, she was writing this article, and she kind of used him as her benchmark and wrote this letter to her dear sexy ex-boyfriend. And people put it together that she was talking about him, even though it was supposed to be kind of this private joke between the two of them. And so they have to fake date to save face. He needs to keep a client. She needs money to pursue her dream. And there's this contest, and that's why she'd written the letter. And it's all based around that. And people find out the ruse, obviously, and things go from there. Their dynamic was really, really cute. I really, really liked it. And again, they kind of both gave me the same thing. They're kind of feeding the same part of me. The fake dating trope is working well for me at the moment. So, yes, very, very nice. Really, really enjoyed. And then the last one we have to talk about is A Walk in the Park. This is by Rebecca Weatherspoon. This was a short Audible audio book. It was a little over an hour at 2 times speed. And this honestly felt like half a book. I felt like we needed a lot more from this. But the whole premise is somebody was trying to get back at this animal shelter. And so they had it set up so that multiple people adopted the same animal. And they all showed up the same day at the same time to get their animals. And so the shelter is doing their best to deal with the problem because it's outside of their control. And our two main characters had adopted the same dog. And one of them said, one of you is going to leave disappointed or y'all can share this dog. So y'all decide. And because they both needed the dog more for companionship and emotional support, they do decide to share the dog. And they are both wildly attracted to one another. And as things progress with the dog, they also progress between the two of them. Now, I do think this book moved a little too fast. I feel like their story could have been amazing had it been given the proper time. Again, like I said, this felt like half a book. It felt super rushed. And I don't think that's necessarily on Rebecca Weatherspoon. I do think it was an audible audio choice kind of situation where this could have been like the length of the Carabas Stone ones, and it would have been amazing. But because it was crammed into the shorter format, it didn't work as well. So this one was a little disappointing. I'm going to give it a 3 because it wasn't necessarily bad. I just needed more from it. So just know that if you do that one from Rebecca Weatherspoon, it's not going to feel like her others. It's not the same level of steam. It's not the same level of story. And I know Rebecca Weatherspoon can do better. And I think that's why I'm disappointed. So with that said, this has been kind of my wrap up for the second half of the month. Sitting to film and make proper content has been tougher for me recently. I don't know why exactly. I'm working on figuring that out. And yeah, so you'll see some more conventional sit down videos coming soon. But in the meantime, I hope you seeing me organically talk about the things that I've been reading recently does help. So with that said, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.
Was it all just a dream, just all in my head?